For us, longevity means, again, moving from seeker to healthcare, staying healthy, preventing the disease of aging, cancer, frailty. If you get rid of all the diseases one by one, what it means is you stay young and healthy. So the call is for passionate founders to come to solve the root cause of disease. We all want to stay healthier. We all want to stay younger for longer.
Stand up and just say what you're going to be talking about. Go ahead, Ogi.
Okay. I think today I'm talking about the repair paradigm in aging.
We're going to chat about the inflammation and how that impacts brain aging.
The greatest risk factor for the biggest diseases now, whether it's heart failure or lung failure, the failure of the immune system, liver failure, is aging. The biggest risk factor is aging, and it's not just a correlation, it's actually causation.
Because aging is an extremely complicated problem. It's like by far the most difficult thing that humans have tried to engineer a solution to, much harder than going to the moon or nuclear fusion even. And so I think developing new tools and new modalities that are actually up to the challenge is the important direction to work on right now. We have people flying in from all over the place to come to this retreat. If you're looking for funding or looking for a co-founder or looking for a job or you're hiring, right? Like there's all these different people that have different needs, and we just fit the puzzle pieces together so that these people's careers advance and they have as big of impact as they possibly can.
The idea is to bring more people into the longevity industry and to do research and, start companies. And obviously, it's part of our thesis of moving from seeker to healthcare. The most passionate people in the world are coming to this space because they really care about it. The science is very magical. Top 3 things people are talking about that can really move the needle are gene therapies, partial reprogramming, and replacement. It's also the 3 main things. And then you have plan C. Plan C is cryonics. If nothing works, freeze us. You could wake up in the future when somebody solved the problem. And I want to give people the opportunity to make the decision, not being made for them. There are always more interesting people to talk to. There are always more books to read. Like, if you're young and healthy and you feel good, you want to live more.
If I had to summarize what's going on in longevity in 2023 right now, I'd say there's definitely been like an explosion of interest, right, and funding, tons of headlines, maybe a little hype, let's say. Longevity biotech is still a very tiny industry if you compare it to even just biotech alone. There's roughly about 170 or so longevity biotech companies. Across those 170 startups, we have about $13 billion in funding. It's very low on our priority list if you think about capital resource allocation. The US made a priority to do something about, beating the Russians to the moon, right? Because this was a matter of, freedom and democracy, like these ideals, these values that the Americans held dear, right? What would it look like if, humanity actually made an all-out effort to fight aging?
It's been incredible to come here and meet all of these people who are from radically different areas of science and technology and business and just anything. I think we have a couple of pseudo-philosophers in the group too. It's wild to meet a lot of people who are interested in this thing that I've been studying for a long time, but I've been on the pathology side, the watching things crumble to dust side. And it's interesting to think that all of the knowledge we're building there about how things break down can be used to help preserve.
You cannot extend maximum lifespan of a sick person. So this is why maybe it's a bit counterintuitive, but to me it is obvious that longevity industry will create increase of maximum lifespan, of course with that goal in mind, but byproduct of that goal will always be increase in health span, because we cannot increase lifespan and old and sick population.
We just invest in tech bio, which is, biotechnology, just technology first, not just prolonging human lifespan. But this subset of tech bio is very important for us. Again, we have this big thesis of moving from seeker to healthcare, and I prefer creating therapies and drugs that keep people young and healthy than, creating therapies for old sick people, so they won't be sick from that disease, but just like whack-a-mole, you whack-a-mole this cancer, you get Alzheimer.
And if you want to fundamentally tackle it, you have to come at it from the perspective of what causes it, and what causes it are aspects of aging. So you have to dissect those and attack them from the root causes. I created a company called Cyclarity Therapeutics, and we created a drug to target toxic cholesterol that accumulates with age all over our bodies, but most famously for heart disease. And that'll be the first disease group that we go after is heart failure.
Where we fit into the greater landscape at the Buck is that we're very focused on diseases of aging, and so we participate in the research environment here at the Buck, where a wealth of basic research is going on to identifying those underlying causes of disease and diseases of aging. I'm Daniel Clemens. I'm the Vice President of Cyclarity Therapeutics. At Cyclarity, what we're really hoping to achieve is to be first in class to reverse atherosclerosis. We estimate that the reversal of atherosclerotic heart disease would be something on the order of tens of billions of dollars a year. We have reason to believe that the target we're going after, 7-keto-cholesterol, is inhibiting your body's own immune system that is designed to surveil and take apart plaques within your body. So once we remove 7-KC from your system with our proprietary class of cyclodextrins, your own immune system, your macrophages and monocytes can circulate, find plaques, and take them apart in a very controlled and natural way to restore your circulatory system to that of a younger person.
So aging is a process. Longevity is fighting it, basically. And we think about it at multiple levels. We've more than doubled our life expectancy. In 1850, we used to live to about 38 on average. Today in the US, it's about 78. And I was recruited to specifically help in transforming the Buck from a pure basic research institute studying aging into an institute that focuses on bringing these discoveries from the aging space into humans. Some people have asked me, why now? What happened now that there's such an excitement about the aging field? Is that if you think about the cycle of discovery, ultra basic discoveries are made, and typically there's a lag of about 20 years until these discoveries can slowly make their way into the clinic. And we're right at that transition. That's why we're so excited about what we're doing.
This is the Reproductive Biology Hub, which is a core facility that is designed to study ovarian aging. Ovaries are like a time machine for aging. They're essentially like a window into how the human body ages in an accelerated way. So with ovaries, they really fall off that curve. So they're aging essentially at like 2.5 times the rate of the rest of the tissues in my body. From a scientific perspective, what we want to know is what are the fundamental driving factors? Like what is actually causing ovaries to start to age when a woman is in her late 20s, early 30s. It's not going to be just one thing that is going to, magically work for everyone. I think that an intervention that might extend my health span might not extend yours, which means that we're probably going to end up with a whole menu of different possible ways to extend health span that are going to be different for different people. We're really focused around extending what we call health span, and that is why we're doing the kind of research that we're doing. I think that there's a huge number of people now who are interested in this. It's a really fascinating scientific question.
My title here at the Buck is Lead Translational Scientist, and here I'm responsible for helping organise and run and get funding for our clinical trials, which is a new enterprise at Buck. We have been developing ways to put ketones into drinks that potentially allow you to get some of the benefits of the ketones themselves without having to follow the diet. And in aging, energy is really important because you start to get less good at making energy in critical organs of the body, like the brain and the heart. The energy role of ketones is like very prominent and very important. It was around the time of the Iraq War. There was a funding call that was put out for a project that was called Metabolic Dominance, and the idea was to have the US warfighter out in Afghanistan being on like some kind of super fuel that was going to promote function and resilience. And so as a result of that research, that's where the first ketone ester drink was developed. We would get visitors coming through the door day after day being like, well, so how does this apply to me? What can I do tomorrow that's going to actually impact on my health and longevity? And what we would like to be able to do is to provide science that supports the kind of current recommendations on lifestyle interventions, perhaps, and supplements and nutrition interventions for aging.
Let's talk about longevity as a business opportunity, right? When we evaluate companies, because of the power of early stage investing, every investment has to have the potential to return the fund, which means it has to be big enough, it has to have defensible magic, and the people have to be the best people. How big is the market? The market is everyone. Healthcare technologies like vaccines. In the case of Sentivax, if you can find universal vaccines that you can get while you're healthy to stay healthy, that can have amazing impact on so many diseases.
I don't know exactly what the future is going to look like, but I know we're going to get there without pathogens. And this is that golden age of biotechnology, right in the middle of a pandemic, that enables us with new tools to be able to go eradicate our most ancient enemies. We live in a world where lots of infections happen, and infections aren't just the period when you're sick. They can have long-term consequences that live after. They can cause cancers. They can cause metabolic disorders that are long-term. They can induce permanent disability that results in changes in your lifespan and your health span that come after. What the technology does is we basically do evolutionary judo and use the virus's mutations against it. So we take strains of flu all the way back to 1918 when they dug a dude out of the permafrost and they sequenced the pandemic Spanish flu that killed him. And then we have sequence records all the way for a century of flu mutations. So we pick a bunch of versions, we mix them and we dilute them. And so that selectively activates against the parts that haven't changed in a century. The mRNA technology, in some ways it's a hype, but there's some real reasons why it's a hype. And it's way faster to go manufacture a new vaccine, so that doesn't accelerate our ability to have an engine of war to deliver these vaccines against new pathogens. Any victory is a victory forever in the human race, and at a certain point we will live in that post-pathogenic utopia, and the work with our hands now can help us get there.
We're at an amazing time in the development of biotech where the tools have gotten good finally. Aging biology is a valid discipline. It's go time. Everything's aligned. But the interesting thing about aging biology is that there are a smaller number of aging mechanisms than there are age-related diseases, such that if you intervene in one age-related mechanism, you can prevent or ameliorate multiple downstream age-related diseases. So as a way for society to focus its resources, because right now, spending 20% of our GDP on healthcare is a ridiculous waste. I think we could spend a quarter of that if we were focusing our therapeutics on age-related diseases. Right now, there's only X number of dollars in the healthy longevity space. And so my mission is to spend that in the highest leverage way to create the most benefit for humanity.
Why did you decide 10 years kind of a good number to solve for?
I wanted a mission for the company that's both achievable and inspiring. And whenever I veered, and of course, I went through some soul searching to come up with the right mission in the early days, including lots of talking with Sam Altman about this and like what's going to work. And I want it to be right at that edge where it's hard but doable, and I can build a ton of momentum because I'm hiring the absolute best people in the world. They need hard but inspiring and believable problems to work on.
how does it look in like 5 to 10 years? Like, do you have a drug for a specific disease, or you have something healthy people take to stay healthy, or both?
There's a relationship at health regulatory agencies between efficacy and safety. And the more of an unmet medical need there is, the more they're willing to take chances on safety. And it makes sense from a patient perspective. Just like a patient's personal game theory is if I'm going to die of cancer in 3 months, I'm willing to gamble on a new medicine that has a 20% chance of killing me. Any new biotech mechanism, target, etc., has to go through this cycle where initially it's actually compassionate to serve the most acute needs. How do you morally roll this out? Because if we're beginning in people that have an acute manifestation of this disease, it is a reasonable moral choice for them to take a bit of risk. People can have confidence, okay, it's ready for this to go to the next stage. And then by the time 10,000 people are taking it and they're all fine, at that point you can start transitioning into a healthy public. To unlock the longevity industry and move forward is to make good longevity drugs that actually work. And once they're out there and people see they're working, believe me, regulators will move out of the way in a hurry before they get bulldozed over.
I've always sort of looked for these ideas that really challenge the status quo. Pronuvo is a company that uses MRI, a 30-year-old technology. And we've imagined an entirely new use case that we believe can be 100 times bigger, which is screening MRI. It describes what we do at the company, which is to give you such early insights into what's going on with your health. This hardware and software really unlocked the service, because now in 50 minutes we can acquire diagnostic quality images across the entire body in order to screen for cancer and disease. You look at the activity of physicians, they spend more time trying to diagnose disease than they spend actually trying to help improve health outcomes for their patients. So physicians come to us in order to shorten the time to diagnosis so that they can actually spend their time doing what they joined medicine to do, which is improve outcomes for their patients. We have a team of people that are building AI models on top of the image data that we're collecting. And these AI models are really focused in on trying to help us understand the very early stages of disease, trying to understand how is our body aging, all of us, relative to a normative curve. What's unique about the image data that we collect at Pronuvo is that it tends to be people that are quote unquote normal according to the health system, which doesn't mean they don't have disease. It just means they're not presenting with advanced symptomatic definition of disease that we have in our healthcare system today. MRI-based imaging tests, like what we do at Pronuvo, can be a very fundamental cornerstone of a preventative healthcare system. And that together with blood tests and together with other preventative modalities will enable us to diagnose 99% of what might otherwise kill us early enough that it just becomes sort of routine preventative healthcare.
I think everyone is uncomfortable with the idea of their own aging and death. And in America and the West generally, like youth and beauty is like on this pedestal. And so there's all these like social things which mean that we like put aging in a box that we don't want to think about and death in a box that we don't want to think about.
It's not only finding drugs that are going to make us live to 100, it's also really changing the way we think about our health.
Only 2% of the investment in biotech are going to longevity companies, and we think it's a big mistake. Again, when I put my investor hat on, we're looking for the biggest market, the most passionate founders, and the best technologies. Most of us, enjoy life, and as long as we are healthy, we would like to live longer and do more. And it is solvable. Like, we can solve this issue.